Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling completely drained, like someone just stole the air from your lungs? You couldn't explain it, but something felt off. That, my friend, is often the invisible fingerprint of a toxic encounter. They don't always yell or attack. Sometimes all it takes is a subtle comment, a smirk, or a look that lingers too long, and suddenly your inner peace is in pieces. But what if I told you that the ancient Stoics, those quiet warriors of wisdom, already faced this same challenge centuries ago? And better yet, they left us a map. A mindset designed to protect our peace, sharpen our judgment, and give us the upper hand when dealing with difficult people. In today's emotionally noisy world, the ability to stay centered is not just a virtue, it's a survival skill. And in this video, we're diving into 13 timeless Stoic principles that will empower you to face toxic people, not with fear or frustration, but with calm, clarity, and quiet confidence. So take a deep breath. This isn't just another motivational speech. This is your training ground for emotional strength, and if you're someone who values mental clarity, resilience, and personal power, make sure to subscribe to this channel, because every week we uncover practical ways to apply ancient wisdom to modern life. Now let's begin our journey. Imagine this. You are the lone guardian, standing at the gates of your inner citadel, your sanctuary of peace, health, and emotional safety. No one else can defend it for you, and like any skilled sentinel, your first responsibility is awareness. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you that disturbs you, it's how you judge it." This is the foundation of emotional mastery, especially when dealing with manipulative or negative individuals. Because here's the truth, toxic people don't have power over you. What affects you is not their behavior, but how you choose to interpret and react to it. When you adopt the Stoic gaze, a calm, clear, and objective way of seeing things, you take back control. You move from victim to observer. So how do you know when a toxic person is near? Let's start with some common red flags. Constant criticism. Whether subtle or overt, it chips away at your confidence. You start second-guessing yourself, even when you know you're doing your best. Manipulation. Their words sound sweet, but their intentions are tangled. Emotional instability. You never know which version of them you're going to meet, and that uncertainty keeps you on edge. These are just the beginning. But don't worry. We'll cover each one and more with practical steps to protect your peace without losing your grace. Let's move forward. So now that we've trained our eyes to spot the warning signs, the next step? Understanding the subtle ways toxicity seeps in, through manipulation, guilt, and emotional bait. Toxic people rarely show up in armor, but make no mistake, they are masters of control. They may flatter you, make you feel needed, or twist your sense of obligation. Sometimes they guilt-trip you with words like, "After all I've done for you." Other times, they escalate to subtle threats or emotional blackmail. They don't always shout, but they do pull the strings quietly. One thing is certain, toxic individuals feed on negativity. Not just their own, but yours too. Have you noticed how some people always seem to focus on what's going wrong, no matter how bright the day is? Their pessimism is like a slow leak in your emotional tires. They drain the room, and before you realize it, you're carrying the weight of their world on your shoulders. Now let's talk types, because not all toxic behavior looks the same. Some wear masks so well you don't recognize the damage until much later. First, the narcissist. Charming, persuasive, and magnetic at first glance, but over time, every conversation turns into, "How stage?" and you're just a supporting actor. You'll notice the pattern. It's always about them and never about you. And the moment you stop applauding, you're discarded or criticized. You're left emotionally starved in a relationship that feels one-sided. Then there's the gossiper, a chaos artist who thrives on drama. They spin rumors like a web, pulling people apart just to feel more important. These are the emotional arsonists, quietly lighting fires between friends, co-workers, and families. And finally, the energy vampire. Just like the name suggests, they suck the life out of every interaction. You walk away from a conversation feeling mentally foggy, emotionally tired, and unsure why. They may not be cruel, but they are consuming. So what can we do? The Stoics taught that clarity is power. By naming the threat, you reclaim your strength. It's like drawing a map of your emotional terrain. The more you understand the personalities that surround you, the better you can prepare, not with fear but with foresight. Think of Seneca, the Roman philosopher. He wouldn't rush into battle blind. He'd study the enemy, anticipate their moves, and build a strategy. And that's exactly what we'll do. So now that we've identified who or what we're dealing with, it's time to take the next step. Fortify your walls. Let's turn inward and begin the process of building boundaries, not as weapons, but as walls of peace. Previously, we talked about identifying toxic patterns and learning how to protect your emotional citadel. But awareness alone isn't enough. Now it's time to act. And that action begins with one of the most powerful tools you have, your voice. Once you've identified what crosses the line for you, whether it's a friend's manipulation, a colleague's passive aggression, or even the unsolicited advice from a family member, it's essential to be honest with yourself. Ask, what will I no longer tolerate? This isn't about judgment, it's about clarity. From there, your next mission is to communicate those boundaries with clarity and calm strength. This is where your inner Marcus Aurelius comes into play. Firm, yet fair. Grounded, but not harsh. So how do you express your limits without igniting unnecessary conflict? It starts with how you speak. Instead of blaming or accusing, use I statements. Don't say, "You're always so negative." Try, "I feel mentally drained when our conversations always focus on what's wrong." It invites understanding rather than resistance. Be specific. Be grounded. Avoid vague phrases like, "I need space." Instead say, "I'm not in the right headspace to talk right now, but I'd love to reconnect later this week." Clarity doesn't mean coldness. You can be assertive and compassionate at the same time. Assertiveness is not aggression. It's the calm assurance that your peace is worth protecting. But remember, setting a boundary once isn't enough. Think of it like maintaining a fortress. If you build a wall and then leave it unattended, it weakens. In the same way, boundaries must be reinforced with consistency. If someone violates your emotional limits, don't explode. Respond with firmness. You might say, "We've talked about this before and I need to hold to that boundary." In some cases, repeated violations may require you to reduce contact, or if necessary, withdraw completely. This isn't about punishment, it's about preservation. The Stoics, especially figures like Seneca, warned against envy and idle conflict. They didn't avoid people out of anger, but out of wisdom. Your boundaries are not selfish, they are sacred. They are the invisible architecture of your emotional well-being, giving you the space to breathe, reflect, and grow in peace. Within your Stoic journey, a strong, well-guarded citadel isn't a luxury, it's essential. And now, let's move on to the next powerful principle. Number 3, become uninteresting to the emotional barbarian. Because some toxic people don't just want attention, they feed on it. Earlier, we learned how to become uninteresting to emotional barbarians, those who thrive on drama and feed off our reactions. But what happens when your silence doesn't stop them? When instead of backing off, they double down, testing the very walls of your inner citadel. Some toxic individuals, when met with boundaries, don't retreat. They escalate. They'll amplify the theatrics, provoke emotional reactions, and test your patience to the limit. But here's the truth. Their outbursts are not your burden to carry. What matters most in these moments is your consistency and your inner calm. You are not responsible for someone else's tantrum, bitterness, or manipulation. You don't need to absorb their chaos. Instead, you can remain still, like a mountain unmoved by storm. This is where the wisdom of Stoicism transforms you from a vulnerable target into an unshaken observer. You step back, not in fear but in clarity. You see the game being played and choose not to participate, which brings us to an incredibly practical and powerful tool. Number 4. The broken record technique. Imagine this. You're in a conversation where someone keeps trying to wear you down, pushing, pleading, guilt-tripping, even flattering you just to bend your will. It's exhausting, and yet it's also a trap. The broken record technique gives you a way out. Inspired by Stoic principles of reason, restraint, and repetition, this technique helps you hold your ground with grace. Here's how it works. You calmly and clearly repeat your stance, again and again, without getting pulled into emotional detours. Like an old record stuck on one track, your message stays the same. I'm not comfortable with that. I've already said no. This isn't something I'm willing to do. Simple? Yes, but incredibly effective. Why? Because manipulators thrive on reactions. They want to provoke, distract, or confuse you. Anything but face your clear refusal. And by repeating your statement without anger or defensiveness, you rob them of that fuel. This approach echoes the wisdom of Epictetus, who said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life." And that freedom includes the right to say no, without guilt, without over-explaining, without needing to apologize. The broken record technique gives you that freedom. You protect your peace by sticking to facts, not feelings. You disengage from the drama while standing firm in your truth. So the next time someone tries to twist your words or manipulate your emotions, remember this. You don't need to win the argument. You only need to hold your line, and that line, calmly repeated, is sometimes the strongest shield you have. Let's continue to the next strategy and explore how reason, not reaction, becomes your greatest weapon. As we saw earlier, repeating your boundaries calmly, like a steady broken record, can completely throw a manipulator off balance. Why? Because consistency is a quiet kind of strength. It disrupts their rhythm. It reveals the emptiness of their arguments. Imagine a crashing wave striking against an immovable rock. The wave rages, but the rock remains unmoved, calm, firm, and unshaken. That's you. Each repetition is a signal. I am not here to fight, I am here to stand. Contrary to popular belief, this technique isn't confrontational. It's not about escalating conflict. It's about anchoring yourself in reason, clarity, and unshakable calm. This is the heart of Stoicism, letting logic guide your decisions, not emotion. And by holding the line, you protect your inner peace with a kind of quiet, noble defiance. Now let's move forward. Number 5. Don't take the bait. Picture this. A fisherman stands on a dock, casting out lines baited not with food, but with emotional hooks, sarcasm, guilt, subtle jabs. He's not fishing for dinner. He's fishing for you. Toxic people often use this tactic. They dangle negativity in front of you, hoping you'll bite, hoping you'll react. Because when you react, they win. Your frustration, your anger, even your defense, those become their fuel. So how do we protect ourselves? With Stoic indifference. Now let's be clear, this isn't the same as apathy. Apathy is disconnection from life itself. It's numbness, carelessness. But Stoic indifference, it's powerful. It's choosing not to be disturbed by things that do not deserve your energy. It's emotional discipline, the ability to observe, without absorbing. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus made this distinction clear. He didn't advocate for coldness. He advocated for emotional clarity, the ability to recognize which things are truly within our control and which are not. So, how do you apply Stoic indifference in real life? Step 1. Recognize the bait. It could be a snide remark, a harmless joke that cuts just a little too deep, or a proposal disguised as kindness but soaked in guilt. The moment you spot it for what it is, you take back your power. Because once you name it, you disarm it. Step 2. Detach. Don't grip the hook. Let it float past you like a leaf on the water. This is where your training shows. You feel the pull, but you don't respond. You don't argue. You don't defend. You simply don't bite. And that's when something incredible happens. The drama fades. The manipulation fizzles. And the toxic person is left with nothing to feed on. Stoic indifference is a choice. It's not cold. It's clear. It's not silence. It's strength. And it's how you reclaim control, not by overpowering others, but by mastering yourself. Now let's move forward to the next principle and discover how to deal with toxic people without losing yourself in the process. In the previous section, we learned the power of not taking the bait, of recognizing emotional traps and choosing detachment over drama. Now let's take that discipline one step further. What happens when you refuse to respond? When you simply let the drama fall flat? You observe the situation with cool composure. You don't flinch. You don't fume. You see the sharp words for what they are. Just noise trying to provoke a storm inside you, but without a reaction. Their power fades. Like a fire starved of oxygen, the drama dies out. Their cutting remarks hang in the air, waiting, dangling, yet they never land. And slowly, their weight disappears. Because without your energy, without your fuel, their performance has no stage. This doesn't mean you become cold or robotic. Stoicism does not ask you to turn off your humanity. On the contrary, it encourages you to express positive emotions, joy, kindness, generosity, but it also teaches you to separate yourself from toxic emotional chaos, to stop feeding feelings that are destructive or beyond your control, to stop being a character in someone else's emotional play. Instead, you become something else entirely, a calm observer, a centered witness, someone who no longer dances to the rhythm of manipulation. This is what Stoic indifference cultivates, a refuge within yourself, an inner serenity that remains untouched, even as storms rage around you. Now, let's take that mindset and refine it further. Number 6, the art of the non-reaction. Picture this: someone who is a verbal gladiator. They wield sarcasm like a sword. They toss insults like daggers. They thrive in chaos, feeding off your outrage and dragging you into emotional battle. They want you to fight back. They want you to react, because to them every word is bait. Every comeback is fuel. But what if you gave them nothing? That's where the art of the non-reaction comes in. A Stoic strategy that's often overlooked, but incredibly powerful. When used with intention, silence becomes your shield. It disrupts the pattern. It confuses their game. It takes away the drama they desperately seek. But make no mistake, silence isn't easy. We're conditioned to defend ourselves, to speak up, to explain, to win. But Stoicism teaches something different. Mastery lies in restraint, to pause, to breathe, to choose peace over provocation, because not every insult deserves an answer. Not every argument is worth your energy. And not every storm needs your presence. In that silence, you don't lose power, you gain it. You show that your peace is non-negotiable, and that, my friend, is the true strength of the Stoic. Let's now move on to the next strategy, where silence meets purpose and action becomes intentional. Previously, we explored the quiet power of non-reaction, how silence, when chosen wisely, becomes a declaration of control. Now let's take a deeper look into what true restraint really means in the face of emotional manipulation. When you choose not to react, when you remain still in moments where others expect fury or frustration, you reveal something extraordinary: mastery over yourself. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king of Rome, once wrote with elegant simplicity, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." And in many ways, true Stoic strength reveals itself in what you don't say, what you choose not to engage in. Toxic people often operate within a predictable cycle. Their tone is negative, their words are laced with emotional bait, and they rely on your reaction to keep their toxic dance alive. But when you don't respond with anger, when you don't match their tone, you throw off their rhythm. The cycle collapses. The dance ends. To paint a picture, imagine a tennis player poised and ready, smashing the ball across the net with full force, only to realize the court is empty, no opponent, no return. The ball thuds into silence. The game is over. That silence? It speaks louder than any comeback. It says, "I'm not here to play your game." And in that moment, you're no longer a participant. You become a mirror, reflecting their behavior without becoming part of it. This silence is not emptiness. It's intentional. It shows discipline, detachment, and dignity. You are signaling to the world and to yourself that your peace is not for sale. This is what Marcus Aurelius modeled through his writings and rulership: calm, reasoned, and immune to petty provocations. But let's be clear, choosing silence doesn't mean you won't face pushback. Often, when someone toxic realizes their usual tactics aren't working, they escalate. They may lash out with more biting insults, desperate to pull you into their emotional chaos. But remember, escalation is not victory. It's a sign that your silence is working. Your job is to hold the line. Keep your posture, keep your peace, because quiet is not weakness. It's precision. It's self-respect in action. That said, the non-reaction technique is not a universal solution. It won't fix every situation, but it is a vital weapon in your Stoic arsenal. When used intentionally, it disarms the manipulator. It protects your energy. And most of all, it proves that your emotions belong to you, not to those who try to provoke them. And now we arrive at the next essential principle. Number 7, limit your exposure. Picture yourself inside the protective walls of your inner citadel. Your thoughts, your energy, your emotional balance, all kept safe by boundaries you've carefully built. But even the strongest walls aren't impenetrable. Because in a world full of noise and chaos, sometimes the greatest defense is not fighting the fire, it's staying away from the flames. In the previous section, we visualized ourselves within the protective walls of our inner citadel, safe, calm, and grounded. But as we know, even the strongest walls can be tested. Toxic people, like persistent intruders, will sometimes still try to slip past your defenses. And this is where a key Stoic principle steps in. Control what you can control. You can't change who they are. You can't rewrite their behavior. But what you can control is your access, your time, your energy, your response. One of the most practical lines of defense is limiting your exposure. If someone consistently brings chaos into your life, ask yourself, can I reduce how much time I spend with them? Can you reschedule that lunch? Step away from that heated group chat. Politely excuse yourself from a draining conversation. This isn't about being rude. It's about being wise. A Stoic leader wouldn't send troops into an unnecessary battle, and neither should you if negativity isn't required. don't invite it. But of course, life isn't always so simple. Sometimes those toxic people are co-workers, family, friends, people we can't avoid entirely. In these situations, emotional distance becomes essential. You might not be able to walk away physically, but you can create space mentally. This is where Stoic detachment becomes your quiet superpower. Epictetus said, "Freedom begins the moment we understand what we do and do not control." Mental detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop absorbing. You can listen to a pessimistic remark without letting it plant seeds of bitterness inside you. You can observe someone's emotional chaos without inviting it into your own inner world. How? Start with cognitive reframing, a Stoic-inspired mindset shift that changes how you interpret negativity. Let's say a coworker constantly complains. Instead of internalizing it, reframe it. They must be having a rough time lately. Just like that, you've removed the hook. You've replaced judgment with compassion and reclaimed your peace. Toxic people thrive on pulling others into their gloom. So instead of stepping into their storm, anchor yourself in the sunlight. Focus on what lifts you, your personal passions, your meaningful work, the people who support and believe in you, the quiet joys that make your day lighter. When you stop giving power to their negativity, it loses its grip on you. Remember, you don't owe anyone access to your inner world. Protecting your peace is not selfish, it's sacred, and with each intentional boundary, you affirm this truth. I choose what enters my mind and what stays in my soul. Let's now move to the next principle, where we learn how to protect not just our time, but also our thoughts. Previously, we explored how limiting your exposure, both physically and emotionally, isn't weakness but wisdom. By stepping back from what drains you, you create space for what sustains you, and in that space something beautiful begins to grow. Emotional safety. Allow yourself to be sheltered by what is good, your passions, your principles, your peace. There is no shame, none at all, in choosing to protect your well-being. It's not cowardice, it's clarity. It's self-respect in action. The Stoics knew this deeply. To live a moral life wasn't to suffer needlessly, but to live rationally, to make wise choices that support inner harmony. So when you reduce the time and energy given to toxic situations, you're not just pulling away, you're pouring inward. You're giving yourself permission to heal, grow, and flourish. Picture this. Your inner fortress is no longer just surrounded by walls. Now there's a moat, a deep, quiet boundary of emotional water that protects your peace from the marching noise of negativity. And inside that safe space, you begin to build strength, which brings us to the next principle. Number 8, build your support system. Let's return to the image of you as a guardian, standing strong at the gates of your inner castle. Your walls are solid, your non-reaction is refined, you've reduced the noise. But even the strongest sentry knows this truth. No fortress stands alone, even the most disciplined warrior needs allies. In Stoic terms, this is your phalanx, a formation of support, made of people who lift you, ground you, and remind you who you truly are. Seneca, one of the great Stoic minds, emphasized harmony with nature, and that includes human nature. We are not meant to suffer in silence. We're meant to walk together with those who reflect our values. Your support system may not be large, it doesn't have to be, but it should be real. People who listen when your spirit is tired, people who offer guidance, not judgment, people who remind you that your peace is worth protecting. When dealing with toxic individuals, emotional fatigue is real. You may feel drained, confused, or isolated, but a strong support system becomes your emotional buffer. It's the space where you can speak freely, reflect safely, and sort through the fog. It's your personal sanctuary for truth and restoration. So take a moment to ask yourself, who truly supports my growth? Who makes me feel more like myself, not less? Those are your allies. That's your Stoic phalanx. And with them beside you, your inner citadel becomes not just defended, but deeply alive. Let's continue forward and explore how inner clarity becomes the next weapon in your journey. Script, page 10, rewritten and enhanced. In the last section, we talked about building your Stoic phalanx, a trusted circle that supports your peace, reminds you of your strength, and walks beside you through storms. Now let's look deeper into why that support matters, because when you have even one person you can confide in, someone who listens without judgment, who sees you clearly even when you feel lost, the impact is profound. Their compassion becomes a quiet shelter. Their presence becomes a reminder, you're not alone in this fight. Toxic individuals often chip away at your self-worth. Their words are subtle but corrosive, planting doubt where confidence once stood. But your support system? That's your antidote. A true ally reminds you of your value, of the gifts you bring, the impact you make, and the strength you might have forgotten in moments of exhaustion. Their faith in you can reignite a spark that negativity tried to smother. Sometimes a simple word of belief from someone who knows your heart can be the fuel you need to keep going. But support isn't just about comfort. It's also about inspiration. The Stoics believed in surrounding yourself with virtue. They taught that those we keep close should embody the qualities we wish to cultivate within ourselves: kindness, resilience, grace under pressure. When you witness someone navigate life with calm, strength, and wisdom, you don't just admire them, you learn from them. You grow, and in time you become that person for someone else. Building this kind of circle is not a one-time task. It's a lifelong practice. Start by nurturing what already exists, deepening the relationships that feel meaningful, that are built on trust. Set aside intentional time, share stories, listen deeply, laugh, connect. Then expand. Join clubs, volunteer spaces, or online communities where your values can meet others. People who reflect your worldview will naturally resonate, and in that resonance, real connection forms. And always, express gratitude. Never underestimate the power of saying, "Thank you for being here. I see you. I appreciate you." Gratitude strengthens the bonds of your support network. It transforms your phalanx from a defense mechanism into a circle of warmth and shared purpose. Through this practice, you create more than just protection. You build a living shield, a circle of human strength that lifts you, restores you, and keeps your serenity secure. Even the most fortified fortress benefits from support outside its walls. Your trusted allies. They are your living armor. They are the ones who stand guard beside you, ensuring your inner sanctuary remains unshaken. Now, as we transition to the next principle, remember this: your peace is sacred, and maintaining it requires not only boundaries and awareness, but restoration. Let's now explore how to reclaim your energy through the next vital strategy. Number 9. Prioritize self-care, because dealing with toxic people isn't just draining. It's like being under siege. And to stand strong, you must renew what's within. In the previous section, we reminded ourselves that a Stoic warrior doesn't just stand strong in battle. They prepare in silence, care for their strength, and tend to their energy like sacred ground. So don't wait until you're running on empty before you recharge. Self-care isn't a luxury, it's your armor. Start simple, eat nourishing food, get quality sleep, take small mindful breaks throughout the day. These routines may seem basic, but they are the foundation of your emotional resilience. Just as you've drawn clear boundaries with toxic individuals, it's equally important to set boundaries around your time, your energy, and your rest. Say no when needed. Protect your quiet moments. Block off time in your schedule just for you, whether it's for reading, walking, meditating, or doing something that brings you joy. This isn't selfishness, it's preservation. A Stoic life is not only about reason and reflection, but also about balance. A depleted heart cannot give. An exhausted mind cannot see clearly. So when you care for yourself with intention, you begin to build a deeper well of clarity and strength. You become more grounded, less reactive, and more equipped to radiate calm even when chaos surrounds you. You don't just survive your interactions with toxic people, you rise above them. And that leads us to the next essential truth. Number 10. Remember, it's not about you. Imagine walking beneath a dark cloud. It looms heavy, it follows your every step. It rains negativity, casting shadows over even your brightest thoughts. That's what it feels like to interact with toxic individuals. But here's the catch. The storm isn't yours. Most toxic people are not reacting to you. They are projecting. Their anger, bitterness, or blame is often a mirror of their own pain. Their actions reveal more about what's happening inside of them than anything you've said or done, and this is where Stoic wisdom offers powerful clarity. The concept of prohairesis, a key idea in Stoic philosophy, teaches us to become the intelligent observer, to step outside the emotional tornado and observe the situation with calm awareness. When you remember this, you detach from personal offense. You realize, this isn't a reflection of my worth. This is a reflection of their struggle. By practicing Stoic detachment, you become like a sailor who learns not to fear the waves, but to read them, navigate them, and stay steady regardless of the storm. You don't internalize every comment. You don't absorb every insult. You observe. You respond. With reason. You protect your peace. Toxic people often try to shift blame because facing their own flaws is painful, but when you see this clearly, you stop playing their game. You're not here to carry their baggage. You're here to hold your ground, and when you live with that level of awareness, something powerful happens. Their chaos no longer has a place to land in your life. Let's move forward now and explore how the next principle can help you cultivate unshakable strength from within. Previously, we learned how to see clearly through the storm, that toxic behavior is more often a projection than a personal attack. And once we recognize that, we no longer carry what was never ours to begin with. When someone lashes out, criticizes, or spreads negativity, Stoic wisdom teaches us to pause and observe, not as victims, but as conscious witnesses. Think of it like this. A scientist studying a thunderstorm doesn't take the lightning personally. Instead, they observe the patterns, the reactions, the cause and effect. Calmly, thoughtfully, you too can adopt this lens. By applying Stoic detachment, prohairesis, you begin to see that their behavior isn't a reflection of your worth, but a symptom of their own inner storm, much like a dark cloud casts a shadow over a hilltop, briefly dimming the landscape. The shadow isn't caused by the land, it's not permanent. And above it all, the sun is still shining. Epictetus once said, "It's not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. And how much of it do we waste and stuck in loops of negativity that were never ours to solve? Your life is a precious, limited resource, and when you spend it reacting to the chaos of others, you trade your peace for a storm that was never yours." The Stoic path calls us to protect our time, energy, and clarity, to move through life as a centered observer, not a passive sponge absorbing everyone else's suffering. Compassion is noble, but becoming entangled in someone else's emotional spiral is not stoicism, it's self-abandonment. So remember this truth. You can care without carrying. You can empathize without absorbing. You can witness without being wounded. Detachment is not apathy, its presence without entanglement, its light shining through the cloud, not being swallowed by it. And now let's approach one of the most important and often misunderstood principles of all. Number 11. Don't try to fix them. It's natural to want to help, to play, the healer, the guide, the gentle force that pulls someone out of their darkness, especially when it's someone you care about. But when that person is deeply toxic, the desire to rescue can quietly become a trap. The Stoics remind us, you can only control your own thoughts, actions, and choices. You cannot change someone who is not ready or willing to change themselves. Trying to fix someone who is rooted in toxic patterns can lead you down a path of exhaustion and self-erasure. You pour out your energy, your empathy, your hope, only to find it swallowed by resistance, blame, or manipulation. Why? Because real change requires their will, not yours. Just as a garden overrun by weeds cannot flourish without effort from the gardener, toxic individuals must choose to confront their own chaos. No one can do that work for them, and when you take on that responsibility, when you make their healing your mission, you create an unhealthy dynamic. You remove their accountability and carry a burden that was never yours. The Stoic path is not about control, it's about freedom. And freedom begins when we stop trying to fix people and start focusing on what we can shape, our boundaries, our mindset, our inner peace. So the next time your heart longs to mend someone who constantly hurts you, pause. Ask, is this truly compassion, or is it self-neglect dressed in love? Let go of the need to save. Instead, hold space for your own healing, because your light shines brightest when it's not dimmed by someone else's darkness. Let's now move toward the final lesson, how to walk away with strength, not bitterness, and claim the peace that's always been yours. Script, page 14, rewritten and enhanced. In the previous section, we explored the hard truth. You cannot fix someone who refuses to change. And now we arrive at the final cornerstone of Stoicism, perhaps the most liberating of all, acceptance. One of the most powerful principles in Stoic philosophy is this: learn to accept what is beyond your control. You can't control the storms of the world. You can't control how others choose to behave. You can't control the chaos that sometimes swirls outside your carefully built inner fortress, and that includes the negativity of toxic people. But here's the gift hidden inside this truth. When you finally accept what you cannot change, you free yourself. No more wasted energy. No more tug of war with other people's demons. No more internal battles with things that don't belong to you. Now, imagine your mind, your spirit, your life as a quiet garden, your Stoic garden. Each act of kindness, each moment of clarity, each habit of discipline, like seeds planted with care. You've watered it with intention, protected it with boundaries. But now along come the weeds, those toxic patterns, those draining interactions, and here's the key. You don't need to tend someone else's garden. You don't need to spend your days pulling weeds from soil that's not yours. Instead, you focus inward. You nurture your peace. You cultivate relationships that uplift you. You invest in habits that restore you. And you tend to your virtues, like a gardener tending to delicate blossoms. Now, does that mean you can't inspire others? Of course not. Stoicism does value the support of others on the path toward virtue. But there's a difference between control and invitation. You can't force someone to grow, but you can plant a seed, a gentle suggestion, a thoughtful book, a quiet recommendation to speak with a therapist, even a kind word that encourages self-reflection. But remember, you are not responsible for their awakening. Your most powerful influence lies not in what you say, but in how you live. Let your calm be your message. Let your clarity be your teaching. Let your grace be your legacy. And sometimes, despite all your efforts, someone will still choose bitterness, manipulation, or blame. When that happens, it's not your failure. It's simply a signal that it's time to protect your garden. Set boundaries, step away if needed, withdraw with dignity, not as an escape, but as an act of self-preservation, because you cannot walk someone else's path. But you can walk your own, with steady feet and an open heart. And when you live like this, when you embody Stoic wisdom, not as theory but as daily practice, you transform. You stop being the frustrated fixer and become the quiet facilitator, a calm presence, a living reminder that peace is possible, and just like that, you become the garden, you become the sunlight, you become the example the world quietly longs to follow. In the last section, we spoke of tending your inner garden, a sanctuary of peace that deserves your full care and attention. But even the most beautiful gardens cannot bloom beside weeds that refuse to die. And sometimes, the most loving, most rational choice is to walk away. Number 12. Know when to walk away. Imagine this. You've built your Stoic refuge. Your emotional detachment is strong. Your boundaries are fortified. Your garden thrives with intention and clarity. Yet despite all this, the negativity of one persistent toxic presence continues to infiltrate. No matter how many walls you raise, no matter how deeply rooted your calm, this person's energy leaks through the cracks, threatening everything you've worked so hard to protect. In moments like these, the ability to walk away becomes a moral act. Yes, a moral act. Because the Stoics believed in living a rational life, a life aligned with virtue, integrity, and clarity. Remaining in a relationship that consistently poisons your peace goes against that very principle. This is not abandonment. This is self-respect. Think of your inner peace as a sacred castle. Stoic practices, self-reflection, mindfulness, boundary setting, are what strengthen its walls. But if someone relentlessly lays siege to that peace, you don't invite them. You close the gate, and sometimes you walk away entirely. Seneca, one of the wisest Stoic thinkers, wrote, "The whole future lies in uncertainty. Live immediately, and staying in a relationship that drains your spirit, that's a delay, a postponement of your joy, a slow erosion of the life you were meant to live. By walking away, you reclaim your time. You redirect your energy toward people and experiences that restore you rather than deplete you. But make no mistake, this is not a decision to take lightly. Before you choose to step back, reflect deeply. Have you communicated clearly? Have you tried setting boundaries or offering support? Is this negativity a constant storm or just an occasional cloud? Does the connection still nourish you, or does it slowly hollow you out? And finally, are you staying out of love, or out of guilt and fear? If the answers point toward consistent harm, if your well-being is continually under siege, then perhaps the most loving act for both of you is letting go. And remember, walking away doesn't always need to be dramatic. Sometimes it's a slow, intentional withdrawal, a quiet disengagement, a graceful step back, not to punish but to protect. You're not giving up on the person. You're giving up on the dynamic that's hurting you both. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. Let's now move into the final principle, where we bring everything together and walk forward with quiet strength and unwavering purpose. Previously, we talked about when to walk away and how choosing distance is not an act of defeat, but one of self-respect and emotional sovereignty. Now we come to the final and perhaps most transformational act of all, forgiveness. Number 13. Forgive yourself. Let's begin with a simple image. You're standing at the start of a long and meaningful journey, but on your back, there's a heavy bag. It's filled with anger, resentment, bitterness, not just toward the toxic person who hurt you, but toward yourself for allowing it, for not walking away sooner, for what you didn't know then. With every step, the bag weighs you down, and the longer you carry it, the harder it becomes to move forward. Forgiveness, in the Stoic sense, is not about excusing bad behavior. It's about liberating yourself from the burden of carrying someone else's darkness. The Stoics taught that the only thing truly within our control is our own mind, our thoughts, our choices, our responses, not the actions of others, not the past, not the storms that blew through and left their mark. So why do we so often trap ourselves in cycles of blame? Forgiveness is not for them, it's for you. It's not a pardon, it's a release. A conscious decision to put down the emotional weight that no longer serves you. Holding on to hate and resentment is like drinking poison and hoping the other person suffers. It doesn't hurt them, it hurts you. It clouds your present. It chains your future. By forgiving, you don't say what happened was okay. You say, I choose not to let this define me anymore. Start by looking inward. Acknowledge what you feel: anger, grief, confusion. Don't suppress it. Don't shame it. Just sit with it, as you would with a friend who's hurting. Then offer yourself what you would offer them: grace. Ask yourself, was this person acting from cruelty or from their own wounds? Were you naive or simply hopeful, human, doing the best you could? At the time, shift the lens. When you do, you begin to move from pain into perspective. Forgiveness becomes a gift you give yourself, a clearing in your inner garden, a lightening of your emotional load, and from there, you begin to walk again, not dragging the past behind you, but moving toward a future that feels lighter, freer, and filled with possibility. Picture it now, you walking your own path. The air is clearer, the bag is gone, your heart lighter, your steps stronger. You are no longer the victim of someone else's storm. You are the keeper of your own calm. By living these 13 Stoic principles, you've transformed from a passive recipient of pain into a resilient warrior of inner peace. You now have the tools, the clarity, the power. And remember, a life free from toxicity isn't just a dream. It's a path worth walking, a fight worth choosing, a future worth living. So go on, tend your garden, guard your peace, forgive your past, and step boldly into the calm you've always deserved. You've just explored 13 timeless Stoic principles, tools to rise above negativity, protect your peace, and walk through life with steady strength and quiet clarity. If this message touched something deep within you, take a breath, and remember, true power doesn't come from controlling others, it comes from mastering yourself. Which Stoic principle will you begin practicing today? Drop a comment below. We'd love to hear your reflections. And if you found value in this message, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to stay connected with Stoic Havenway, a channel dedicated to timeless wisdom, personal transformation, and the pursuit of inner peace. You deserve a life of strength, clarity, and serenity, and that journey begins with you.